Shalom, friends. It gives me a great pleasure to share with you some thoughts as we enter into Pesach 5784. When we sit down to the Pesach Seder, one of the defining features of the process of the entire Seder is, as the Gemara calls it, as the Mishnah calls it, Matchil Bignut, Misayem Bishvach. We begin with the negative and we end with the positive. It's a progression. And there's Machlokes Rav and Shmuel, and it's a question really about the story that we're talking about. We start with the Avdut or Mitchila, and then we end with the redemption, and with the coming close to Hashem. I would say for all of us, since this year, especially since October 7th, our lives have been filled with, as the Jewish people, tremendous amount of gnut, tremendous amount of pain and suffering and sadness and tears, as well as with a lot of shevach. Despite that, or maybe because of that, there's been a lot of bright spots and many points of inspiration, seeing the entire Jewish people come together in the degree of unity that we have not seen in a generation, perhaps, has been outstanding. The amount of miracles that we've been witness to in individual situations, or even nationally, the miracle from this past Motzei Shabbat of the Iranian attack and the way 99% of those projectiles were intercepted is nothing short of Yad Hashem. So on the one hand, there's been tremendous Gnut and Shvach, and it's all mixed together. So usually we think about it as a linear progression of the Seder. And what we're seeing today is actually much more of a jumble of Gnut and Shvach together. And actually, if you look at many other parts of the Seder, you find the same thing. You don't find it so clear. The whole beginning of the Seder is Gnut and then go to Shvach. It's not like we have the Moror at the beginning and then we get to, the Arba Kosot at the end. You have the Kosot are throughout. You have the Moror is later. You have the Karpas. The Karpas, according to many, the vegetable symbolizes springtime and hope, and you're dipping it in the salt water, which resembles the tears. You have the Korech, which symbolizes the Cherut of the sandwich, of the Korban Pesach, and then you're dipping it in Charoset, which symbolizes the mortar and the bricks. You have the Matzah itself, symbolizing Lechem Oni, bread of affliction, and at the same time, Matzah is symbolizing Chipazon, the alacrity and the amazing salvation of Hashem from Egypt. So all these symbols of the Seder and more are actually also have within them the Gnut and the Shvach mixed together. And it's actually interesting. I often would wonder, why is it that all these themes of the Seder are so mixed together? They're not clearly organized. Like, why does everything have to be mixed together? And perhaps in thinking about it, especially this year and experiencing what we've experienced, perhaps that's the reason, is that in real life, it's not a linear progression of Gnut to Shvach. That's not how real life works. Maybe in theory we could think about it that way. But in real life, so often, the Gnut and the Shvach are mixed together, as we've seen. And sometimes the Shvach comes perhaps from the Gnut and from the pain itself. And perhaps this is the meaning of the Tzafun. What's the Tzafun? Tzafun is when we finally take out the Afikoman. And when we break the Afikoman at the beginning of the Seder, we're breaking it and we're creating from a whole matzah, we're creating a broken matzah. We're creating a sense of brokenness. Actually, beautiful idea. Leonard Cohen, I believe, is known to have said that the cracks are what allow the light to come through. The Kutzker Rebbe had a different way of saying it, that Ein Shalem Milev Shavur. There's nothing more whole than a broken heart. But sometimes this brokenness that the matzah creates the sense of oni and the sense of gnut. And at the same time, what are we doing with that matzah? We're hiding it away for the tzafun, for the end of the Seder. We're hiding it away. We have hope for the future. So even though right now it may be broken, and that's why we break it, and right now we're living perhaps in a broken world, we have hope for that future. Our sages teach us, bin Nisan nigalu, bin Nisan atidin lehigael, that Nisan is the month of redemption from years ago from Mitzrayim. And we have a tradition, the Gemara teaches, that in Nisan will be the month of redemption. So may this Nisan we see complete salvation of the Jewish people, release of all our hostages, all our soldiers should come home safely. We should have peace and security. And I want to wish everyone a Chag Kasher V'Sameach.